Hello everyone, I'm here with Sue and Jimmy, and now we're going to jump right into the real meat of domain authority. We're going to go over the hows and the whys of domain authority. And this is the stuff here that really opened my eyes in our workshop this weekend as I began to understand what was really going on and what Sue and Jimmy have been talking about. Jimmy, let's just jump right in to the rich media here, and I'm just going to get out of the way and let you tell everybody what's going on with domain authority.
Sure thing, Russell. So domain authority is pretty interesting. It's really been dictating how the SERPs are being affected, and while most of the community is still holding on to that page rank, if you really stop and look at the elements that comprise domain authority, you're really going to be able to see a different picture. That's what we're going to try and walk people through here.
Gotcha.
When I first came across this, it came about because of the Google Payday Loan algorithm. That was their first iteration of when this really started to cropping up in the organic search queries. And during that process, I've been in a lot of competitive niches, like credit cards, payday loans, I've been in niches like that. And so I saw a lot of my sites were affected at that point because of this change that happened. And there's a few things that Matt really touched on that went over that video that kind of made me think a little bit closer at what was going on. One thing specifically that they targeted with that update was they're trying to get rid of spammy links in those tools. Well, what better way to do that than with domain authority? Because everyone that's used the tool and the traditional ranking factors always targeted one page, maybe two or three. Depends on how they set their campaigns, but for the most part, most of the juice was going to one page. That's when I started giving this a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
so when you're talking about the payday loan and you talk about the tools, you're talking about, can I name drop tools? Like you're talking about things like the traditionals, right? SE Nuke, XRumor. Most 99% of those people are just hitting one or two pages.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was, and even I think in SE Nuke there's a default setup in there that was a quick setup that will just let you drop in 3 URLs and then you're off and running with the links.
Right, Fiverr Gig City.
Yeah.
Okay, so continue.
So that really, that shifted my focus to go more after, okay, well, what does Google really look at? And it plays a lot on things that Google's always traditionally said. They want to see good content. And in theory, if you have a good blog that you have out there, a good website, you're publishing good content, and it's getting shares, and it's going around the internet, you're going to acquire that domain authority naturally over time. So that's not really going against anything that they didn't want to propagate in the beginning.
Right. So
that's kind of where they've taken it, and when you look at it from that standpoint, you can still see, once you understand that concept a little bit, you can really understand how to manipulate that and use it to your advantage, as opposed to just being like, you get a link from this page and you get a link from this page. It's not about just the juice anymore.
Interesting.
So let's go into, let's touch again on the elements that comprise domain authority. So domain authority is accumulation of the page authority of the site. Now again, I want to touch on the metrics, the primary metrics that are coming into play here. And really the Moz tool, they're pretty accurate. They're about one of the best things you have to measure that right now that's in the market. Of course, people have different metrics and things, and you can do your calculations, but really it's the easiest one that you can use. And what's coming into play primarily is your Moz rank, which comprises of the actual juice of that link, or the quantity of juice that you have flowing through those links. And the other thing is the Moz trust. Well, if you're looking at it from that perspective, what develops that trust? Are they sites that have been around the internet that have, they're major companies in an industry? They are, they're these giant companies that have been established and have put out content or generate traffic and been around a long time. And
they're like the 10,000-pound gorillas that have been lifting that weight, like we talked in our first talk, where they actually have the domain authority. So what are we looking at here? I'm sure that everyone's wondering. We're on this graph here where this is the network empire market domination web ring system.
So with this, utilizing domain authority, it's really a stackable system that when you understand these metrics, you can really start to manipulate how this trust can actually be used to boost your own WR1 rankings or your own website's rankings. And essentially that's how the network system really functions when you look at it as a whole. There's a lot of other elements, a lot of other benefits, but when you're looking at it, it's able to stack that authority where, you know, with other teachings out there, you're not going to get that method built in the way that the ring system is set up.
So when you say WR1 for our listeners, you're talking about the thing here that's crossed out. That's the money site.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's three things that we're going to talk about in this course of stacking and sculpting. We're going to talk about domain authority stacking. We're going to talk about off-site page authority boosting, and we're going to talk about primary domain authority boosting. Okay? So these are three different methodologies that you can use to stack and sculpt. And what we're trying to indicate here in our stackable system of our networks, where you've got the branded websites in your WR1, you've got the social media, branded social media in the WRS1, and that's the first ring where you can start to stack and sculpt domain authority.
And that's,
you can also,
and that's what you cover in the Tech Foundation 1 course, is just the WR1 and WRS1.
Right. Tech Foundation, we set up those two. And in Tech Foundation 2, we will get into how to stack on the WRS2, or on the WRS1.
Gotcha.
Right? So this system that we're going to talk about during this course, you can apply to every single element in your network except directly to your money site. It's implicitly applied to the WR1 through the linking structure in the network. It's explicitly applied anywhere else in your network that you want to apply.
Can I translate that? Can I repeat back to you what I think I'm hearing with from somebody who's doesn't have an SEO brain as powerful as you two? What I hear you saying is that everything in this course should absolutely not be applied to the WR1 money site.
Directly, correct.
Okay, so that's why you crossed it out.
Exactly.
Okay, got it. Continue.
Okay, so now that you can kind of see that this is kind of integrated into this system, you know, there's been a new feature. Would you like to introduce us to this feature here that you added to Kraken, Sue?
Absolutely. So just last week we added domain authority and page authority to the white paper. So this is the white paper that we're looking at right now. The white paper is broken down into two different parts. The part in the dark blue is like a header information for the domain itself. So you can see BlueNile.com right there. You can see the age when it was originally created. You can see the page rank is a 5, and the domain authority is a 62. And then you've got some other information about the domain itself. And then the page that's actually ranked for silver jewelry, which is the theme, the parent theme in this case, is BlueNile.com/silverjewelry. It has a page rank of 4. It's got a page authority of 28. And then you can see that silver jewelry is ranked in the #1 position.
So that's what that one is. Wow, this is incredible data.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can go down the line here, and my frustration with the white paper, particularly over the course of the last 6 months, and it started exactly with payday loans, was you couldn't just look down the sheet and understand exactly the page rank that you needed to have in order to be able to rank. Because if you look at these top 3, it's a perfect example. It goes from page rank 4 to page rank 3 to page rank 4.
I know, that's why I brought this to you, Sue, because it blew my mind. I couldn't interpret it from the old model.
Exactly. So I'll let Jimmy elaborate on how now the new domain authority and page authority elements start to help you see a better story.
Okay, cool.
So let's take kind of an overview glance as you're looking at this from a SERP perspective. If you're looking at this from a Google perspective. So here you have BlueNile.com. They're sitting pretty well at a 62 domain authority, and their page authority is a little weak, you know, at 28. as definitely not in line with a PR number of 4. Now let's look at a few more of these. You have overstock. Overstock is not necessarily specifically just jewelry. You can get all kinds of things there. I hope everybody is familiar with overstock. It's like an Amazon kind of.
Yep.
And so they don't deal specifically with jewelry. But let's just take a look at the metrics again. We have an 84 here, and we have a 44 here. Again, with a PR3. Now let's just move down the page a little bit.
Okay.
This is interesting here. The third listing in Google has a domain authority of 44, pretty high page authority of 53, and another jewelry company there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again with Amazon, you got a domain authority of 99 and a page authority of 47, but a negative PR.
Wow.
So
there's no page rank on that page. I mean, like that's one minor example for even a beginner to be able to see that Amazon's domain authority just trumps any need for the old page rank model whatsoever.
Yeah, so if you're looking at it just from a page rank perspective, you can see that this is what's driving the rankings now. It is not PR.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of interesting because you might think, well, the PA, it still comes down to, if you consider PR and PA kind of same,
right?
It's not. They're different metrics. But even in this sense, why would a 28 here be outranking?
That's why I was asking you guys. I couldn't get that.
So that's an interesting thing. So let's just take a quick look at these different URLs here.
Okay.
And see what the difference is. Why would something that technically is weaker be ranking above something that obviously has more domain authority?
Okay.
So
that is the million-dollar question.
So let's take these two examples here. Just bear with me one moment.
Sure.
So
we're comparing Blue Nile and Overstock. That's cool. A small page authority that's outranking a higher page authority, but with less domain authority.
So let's take a look at these pages real quick. So here we have Blue Nile. Just by looking at this site, I could tell this is about jewelry, right?
The entire site.
And it's not just this page.
Right.
This thing, the theme of this site is all about jewelry.
Yeah.
Whereas if we look at Overstock,
it's one page or category.
They have items on there that they sell about jewelry, but it's not a dedicated jewelry website. It's not themed as just jewelry. And so, as an authority, which one is Google looking at more so? Even on a page authority level, they're still looking at the total theme and trust of the overall domains as a whole.
Exactly.
It's not page-based.
Which is what Sue's been saying for years. So you got the thematic aspect is a key component in this factor. That's crazy.
Yeah, so if we go back to the white paper for a second, you can see Blue Nile has a total of 421,000 indexed pages, right? All 421,000 of those pages are about jewelry.
Got it.
And
Gotcha.
You can pretty much bet with the diversity in Overstock, they don't have close to 500,000 pages.
Right.
They've only got 6 million pages all up, right? So they're not going to have 500,000 pages in jewelry.
They're lucky if they have. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to who's the authority on jewelry, then it goes to Blue Nile.
I mean, if you look, kind of what I do is I'm looking at Overstock.com. They do have a category which is jewelry watches, which is not just only watches. It's a mix. And then they do have a category on jewelry, which is probably just a few hundred pages.
Right.
And that's not even close to the theme that's outranking it. So Google's kind of nailed it with this properly as far as relevance and thematic relevance.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people need to pay attention. So when you have instances like this where, well, this has lower domain authority and page authority, why is this up above this site, which is obviously stronger?
Yep.
In the measurements of PA and DA.
It's thematic.
The one other thing, just drop back to Overstock for a second, and I'll show you the other really bad thing that they do.
Okay.
if you hover over one of those drop-down menus at the top, like furniture.
I was wondering if you're going to say something about that.
Yeah. So they've done a terrible job at siloing their site, right?
Yeah.
So they've actually really watered down the thematic
Relevance.
concurrency of this page by including things about bed and bath and furniture and women and health and beauty. And,
I feel like I'm looking at the exact conversation that you had with one of our giant clients who had the same type of drop-down menu.
Exactly.
It's the same issue. So what you're saying, Sue, is that we're still beating the drum on website silo architecture. I know Jimmy is a huge fan of it. All of that is the same. To me, it's amazing how thematic relevance, that we've been beating that drum since 2005, has actually in some ways become more important when you consider trust and domain authority. That's kind of cool.
Yep.
Very, very cool. Okay.
So let's go back. Do we want to go over the other white paper, Sue, to give another example?
Let's take another look at the other white paper and just see if there's anything interesting that pops out.
So, Sue, this white paper is all part of, this is on the Kraken theme area. So this is automatically a part of the subscription, or?
Yeah, this is part of the vertical online market analysis.
Okay, cool.
Subscription.
Got that.
So this particular drill is about acne. And as we look down here, what are we seeing? We've got Wikipedia number 1, WebMD number 2, AAD.org is number 3. And as you're looking at the page rank, you're seeing you got 6, 5, 5. But when you look at the page authority, you've got 85s, 72s. Like the page authority is actually really heavy.
It is, yeah.
I think, next to the page rank. So as you come down, as you look at where's the first guy that's not a heavy hitter on this page? Mayo Clinic is a 51 with a page rank of unknown. So you've got acne, acne.org, which is probably the only thing on this page. Let's just take a quick look at acne.org. Are they actually a product? Yeah, so as you can see, there's an ad that pops up there in the bottom right. They're actually trying to sell a product.
Yeah.
And so they're the only
direct sales.
They're the first product direct sales site in that list that you come up against. So now let's say that I have an acne product that I'm trying to sell. I'm trying to figure out how much it's going to cost me to get up there to the top of the screen, right? And I've got PageRank 5. Well, heck, acne.org is a PageRank 5. It should be ranking higher. If it were my site, I'd be cussing Google out at this point, right? I got 500,000 pages. I got a PR 5. Why the heck am I not ranking higher than everybody else?
Right. And so what is can you clarify again just for everyone? What is the answer to that?
It's
why?
Got a domain authority of 53.
Got it. So that's the key point I want everybody to take away, because it's new to look at the metrics like this, It's non-traditional.
Exactly.
So the issue here is domain authority is an entirety. They just are not pulling their weight in terms of the heavy domain authority on this page.
Yep.
So they're up against the big organizations that either have thematic relevance or just gigantic sites in general. They're just huge weightlifters, 10,000-pound gorillas.
10,000-pound gorillas, all in the health and wellness industry.
Yep.
And yeah,
and they're
badasses.
badasses.
They're going to have a long, hard haul to get their butts up to the top.
Just for fun, and you guys don't have to answer this. You can say, hey, Russ, we're going to do this later on another module or another course. But if I was to sweet talk you guys into telling me, if I was this guy at acne.org, and I hired Jimmy and you for your $2,000 an hour fee, what would you tell me to do? Or is that too premature? As a business owner, what would you tell me to do? Would you have to look at it more, Jimmy, and find out what the details are? Would you have to look at the backlinking profile and his?
Well, based off of this, and this is what I noticed in the payday loan sector. So when you look at Wikipedia, WebMD, and these types of sites that are ranked in the top 5 right now, the thing that's keeping them there is their domain authority, because the whole site is not themed for acne specifically.
Right.
So with this, the only thing that site needs to do to get up on par with these other domains is raise their domain authority.
Okay, and that's what we teach in the domain authority stacking stuff and more advanced courses, more or less.
Correct.
Okay. Also, we're going to be talking a lot about the live events that we have on a yearly basis. I'm wondering, is there a time where you guys would say, you would take a look at something like this and just say, you're kind of hosed, like you're not big enough, the industry's too rich, like go, it's long tail city for you?
I would say in this instance, to get up to a DA, I mean, these are all heavy hitters. These are like 90 plus, what I'm seeing in the top 5.
Okay.
You've got a long way to go from 50 because of the algorithmic scale.
I mean, Sue, would you say that, I mean, acne's pretty hardcore. I mean, it's a core pain, a huge theme. I mean, he's probably still doing some damage. I know that Jimmy can analyze that on multiple long tails and probably his cluster overall. That would be one strategy too, right? To rank for a lot of the themes and synonyms using siloing that these guys are missing. Yep. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll get out of your way. Just those are questions that came to my mind. And what next? Where should we go next?
Okay, so the next thing we're going to go over is kind of explaining more how it flows. How does Google determine authority?
What is this picture? This is awesome.
This is it's an interesting tool that kind of visualizes link profiles. So on here, you can kind of tell, so these are representing domain, these huge clusters that you're seeing. They're representing domains and their individual link profiles. And then you're seeing where these are linking to and from within the clusters themselves. So this is like a visual representation of what you're seeing of link juice flow.
So the 10,000-pound gorilla is this giant cluster on the left where thousands upon thousands are making this giant thing, right? Vortex, this black hole. All of the authority is being sucked into that gigantic site.
Yeah, so this would be that 500-pound gorilla that is the authority in the niche. You have a lot of other little spiral clusters here.
So that would be like the web. That would be like the WebMD, and one of those smaller ones might be like the acne.org.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
And so you can kind of see. So let's compare it this way. If you just give me a quick visual here. So if you were thinking about this in terms of trust or domain authority, and you send a link over to another site, which one is going to move you for? One of these little cluster websites here, or is it going to be the heavy, big 500-pound gorilla?
Yep, the weightlifter is going to win every time, and that's the one you want. I mean, I would be coveting links from high domain authority sites based on what you guys have told me in this talk.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to add anything to this one, Sue?
Yeah, the other thing that I would say is it's long been known that if you have a link from a .gov, that it's a coveted link, right?
Right.
Even if the page itself has a page rank of 0.
Yep.
And the reason that that's a coveted link is because of the domain authority on the domain. Similar thing goes for YouTube. YouTube's got all of this humongous domain authority behind it.
Huge.
You can get your channel up there in a matter of minutes. You can post a video. You can get a link from that video over to your site. And even so, it's got a page authority of 1 to start with. It still carries with it all of that domain authority. So you're getting a link from a 500-pound gorilla.
So that's all the hoopla in the industry about, every ClickBank product and every Warrior product and his mother and not focused on YouTube's. A lot of them are right for the wrong reason. Like, they don't necessarily know why this is working. What you're saying is that because YouTube has massive domain authority, the pages by default are
Exactly.
huge. Got it. And that's why those
and when you
work.
have a lot, exactly, when you have a lot of domain authority, getting page authority or getting getting page authority is a pretty quick and easy thing to do. If you notice, like if you've got a brand new channel on YouTube versus your brand new blog, right? Don't link between your channel and your blog. Try to rank something on your channel and try to rank something on your blog and see which one's going to rank easier, right?
Yep.
Like let's say that you pick some obtuse keyword for both.
Mm-hmm.
And you send the same amount of inbound links from the same kind of places to both of those, guaranteed your YouTube channel is going to rank faster. Your YouTube video is going to end up on the front page faster.
Yep, we've tested that time and time again. And really, to extrapolate from that, and again, not to sidetrack too much, that's really the whole method, both our advanced certification live event methods and this is just showing you the hows, the whys, and the variations of all that. We're going to be getting into quite a bit of that.
How you can take advantage of that and really do evil things.
Exactly. And of course, we've leaked a little bit of that with our 5 iframe punch course, but not to the extent that you guys are actually showing why it works, which is huge.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay, cool. So where do we go from here then, guys?
So do we want to go over...
Yeah. Anything else you want to say, Jimmy, on this is super valuable, like my mind is blown. So.
Yeah, there are a few other parts that we're going to get into a little bit later on. With the difference between that page authority and domain authority, but
what happens here's kind of a silly question from the marketer side in me. When you're looking at page authority, like I'm trying to envision page authority on this graph. Like what happens when you have a site that gets like one page on their site deeper in the site has massive page authority because for some reason it went viral or whatever. Is it just that page that's going to be ranking for the terms on it? Does it pass the authority up to the domain authority? It's logarithmic, right, Sue? So, I mean, how does that asymmetry work in the event of a ridiculously viral page?
It's going to give weight to the entire site.
Okay.
If you have one page, if you have just one page that's hugely popular, it will give weight to the entire site. But if you have many pages that are less popular, if that same popularity is spread out over more pages, it's more meaningful.
So that's kind of why we created Social Explosion.
Exactly.
Shameless pitch. Okay. But if we look at that, which is a WordPress plugin, by the way, if we look at that, can I just do something really crazy here, just for the simpleton theoretician here? Jimmy, if a domain authority of 100, like the index page of, like a domain authority and the page authority of 100, or 95 or something, passed a link to a deep page in a site, are you saying that there is such a thing as buoyant domain authority or buoyant page authority? Like the authority will be passed up the site, just like we talked about buoyant page rank. It will be passed up the site, and the whole site's domain authority will get accredited logarithmically?
You get into more of that.
I would say so.
Okay. But I'm premature in that, right? Okay. I just was kind of curious because I'm really starting to get it now, even better than our lecture that you gave me earlier. So this is awesome. Okay. Continue.
Okay.
So let's talk about PageRank for just a minute.
Okay.
This is a diagram that shows how PageRank flows, and it's one of my favorite diagrams because it gives you an idea, like the silo on top is wider than the second silo, right? So you can see how more pages, more supporting pages in your silo give you more PageRank on your silo landing page, right?
So we're looking at what's the index page? I'm a little lost here.
The index page is the one over on the left with 1.43.
Okay.
And it links to all of the silo landing pages,
right.
And each of the silo landing pages in turn link back up to the silo.
Oh, got it. This is a sideways website silo architecture. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Exactly. So the top silo's got 4 supporting pages. The second silo's got 3 supporting pages. You can see what that does to the page rank on each of those 2 silo landing pages.
Right. This is the old-fashioned page rank calculation.
Old-fashioned page rank calculation. And then down there on the third silo, you can see that silo landing page has actually got a lower calculation than the middle one, right? It's got about 9 points, 0.09 points fewer. And so you can see how that the bottom level, those what we would call supporting articles, right? You got silo landing page, you got your category pages, and then you've got your supporting article pages. You can see how that actually drags a bit of the link juice, a bit of the page rank off of both of the silo landing page and the supporting articles underneath it, right? It drags that link juice all the way down to the bottom level.
Yep.
So this is how people are used to thinking about PageRank, the guys that have really gotten into it and studied the math behind it, and how the way that the PageRank on the home page is calculated at 1.43 in this instance, right? So we actually look at PageRank on each page as an individual kind of a thing, and it depends on how all the pages are linked to each other and yada yada. It's kind of it's a heavy calculation, right?
Right.
So if we take a look at the next image, I think it will get more into how trust rank is calculated. No, that's not the image that I'm really looking for. All right, so let's go back to the PageRank's image for a second. Domain authority is calculated in a completely different way.
Interesting.
Domain authority is actually the sum of all of the pages. If you notice here, there's nothing that's like the sum of other pages.
Right, there's not.
Right? And so domain authority you can think of more as rivers with tributaries. Right, where you've got a whole bunch of tributaries, and as the tributaries flow together, they make a bigger river. And then it hits up with another silo, which is a pretty good-sized river, and it makes an even bigger river. And all of those things together combine to make the domain authority. So
Gotcha.
It's the sum of all the pieces. Now, it's not, the way that PageRank isn't exactly, you can't take 2.52 and divide it by 4 and end up with a page rank of the 4 supporting pages, because that's not quite the way it works.
There's always entropy somewhere.
Yeah, there's always entropy. So you can't take the page authority of all the pages on the site and come up with a perfect value of what the domain authority is. It's an iterative process that's it goes through and it calculates those links multiple times to determine the weight of all the links and the trust values and everything, and comes up with the value in the end. But it is cumulative, where PageRank is not.
Got it. And there's probably also some minor to major variations of other factors that are independent from that equation, but more or less it works.
Right. There's like over 40 different things that you take into account, but those are things that you more take into account when calculating each of the individual page authorities.
Gotcha.
So it's a much easier calculation to go from page authority to domain authority.
It's cleaner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Simple.
Gotcha. I'm following. Amazingly.
Excellent.
Okay. So then the concept of trust rank.
This is a fascinating concept.
So tell us all about it. I'm starting to get it.
So this is not dissimilar from the concept of trust in the semantic web. In fact, the more that I look at this and the more that I look at the semantic web, the more closely aligned I realize these two concepts are.
So you're talking about the stuff you teach in the semanticwebtraining.com course and all of our other stuff that people might not know about. That's why I'm dropping it there.
Good. Okay. So you start off on the far left with a trusted seed site, and these are the sites that have a trust value of 100. And they're going to link to other sites. So let's say that we take, wouldn't you say that Wikipedia's got a trust of 100, Jimmy?
Yeah, it does.
So you got Wikipedia with a value of 100, and the sites that they link to, this was actually, who did this study, Jimmy?
This was done by a group at Stanford.
Stanford, exactly. So this is actually, like, they did a study. They looked at these sites that are considered to be trusted sites, and how many, what the percentage of spam was one link away from that. And you're looking at a very, very low spam rate, one link away, 0.15%, right? So 99.85% of those links link to good stuff. And there's just a few people who have managed to get, a few spammers out there, a few black hat people who have managed to get their links into trusted sites.
Right.
Now, when you go the next link away, in other words, when you go from these, you've gone from, say, Wikipedia to another site, and then you go from this other site, let's say that this site that you've gone to is WebMD, and then you go from WebMD to another site, you've got, on average, 4% of those sites are spam.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, I probably used a bad example there. WebMD's probably got a really high trust value too. They might also be 100, but let's say
AutoGen Site X.
Right. highly unlikely to go to AutoGen site X, right? But the second link away might be to an AutoGen site X. And by the time you get to that fourth link, the third hop, right, the fourth site, you're looking at 14% spam. So the further you get away from the trusted site, the less trusted the site is likely to be.
You know, I don't know if you guys just tell me if this is not a good one, and I'll delete it from the talk if it's not, or actually if you correct it, it might even be helpful. As you guys continue to talk and I see these giant balls on the screen here, I'm kind of thinking about like a game of pool where you kind of lose control the more the kinesthetic is passed away from the cue.
Exactly.
That's really weird because it's very kinesthetic in the sense that it's just likely that by the time you reach the fifth ball, unless you're a really good master and a hustler, that you're going to be able to get that thing to precisely mark somewhere.
Right.
And that's the art form, right? But it's just, so that's just like the kinesthetics of it. It's like you're going to get less trusted, so you move away. That makes sense to me based on what you said.
Yep. So I've always kind of wondered why Google only follows, the buzz on the street is Google is only going to follow 5 links. And then they stop. And I'm like, And I'm like, oh, that's because if you start from a trusted site and you follow 5 links, your chances of being, on a very tangent kind of a concept and way out there in untrustworthy land are pretty dang high.
Interesting. And that actually matches the gigantic internet-sized picture that Jimmy just showed a few slides back.
Precisely.
You could kind of see nothing happening on the outer ring of those small or large sites. There's a circumference, and then they're either small or they're big. They have the domain authority or they don't.
Exactly.
Or somewhere in between. It's just based on the size of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. This is good enough for even a beginner to understand. I like it. Okay.
Did I miss anything with that image, Jimmy? Is there anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think it's really good. I think we've covered a lot of stuff in that you always think of that 5, you keep thinking of like the 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think of it very much similar to here because, if you're an authority site or you're a 500-pound gorilla, chances are you're not hanging out with, a smaller chimpanzee somewhere.
Exactly. I'm having some light bulb moments, guys. Partially, what's now going on in my brain is like I'm going back to the Kraken white paper, and I'm seeing why Sue and you wanted to add those things, why we added it to Kraken, because now you have this, I can just see the whole picture where just at a glance you're going to have the numerical values of that kind of visual overlay graph, and you're going to really see, okay, pretty quickly what's going on, as long as you know the factor. And it's kinesthetic. That's very, very cool. Okay. Got it.
So this is an interesting picture here that we're going to go over. So this one is going over a little bit how Sue had described with the concept of how trust passes, as you were seeing in that previous picture. So from here you have one that's going from nasa.gov, massive gorilla pointing over to space.com, and then back up to telescope.com. Well, those are, and then over here you'll see casino-loans.com. That's pointing to space. That's not going to pass any trust.
No.
And the reason being is it's not themed. So it's very interesting to note a concept here. When you're choosing backlinking domains, what's better, taking a handful of pages from one site and then having a link from those handful of pages? Let's just use Weebly for an example. When you create a subdomain on Weebly, the entire Weebly domain is not going to be comprised of whatever you're theming your subdomain to.
Correct. It's going to be Weebly.
Yeah. So when you get a link from that over to your money site, it's not going to be as strong or pass as much authority as would a site that's completely themed as a whole.
Yep.
So
this is exactly what Sue was talking about yesterday on her lecture on thematic relevance and her early algorithm on theme relevance indexing. This is, wow, I'm having another light bulb moment. Very cool. So let me try this back. So Weebly is actually a site that was created for the purpose of people getting sites and therefore has no direct theme. It actually has millions of themes. But it's got a massive domain authority because of all the content being added, all the activity, all the traffic, and many, many other, 40 other factors, as you and Sue mentioned at the beginning of this course. However, you can go ahead and get a Weebly and a subdomain, and you can decide to theme it. Same is true like with lenses on the, like a lens when you get it from Squidoo or anything like that. There may be thousands of topics. The domain authority is very high, but it's not focused. If Squidoo, for instance, was only about space, the CEO said, you know what, we're deleting everything except space lenses, then the entire site would be about space, and it would pass massive amounts more juice thematically. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct on that, Russ.
Okay, gotcha. That's awesome.
I think this ties in really nicely to what is being provided on Kraken now, so where you can kind of understand when you're looking at the SERPs why domain authority is playing such a vital role, not only because of updates, but because of all these various factors that we've displayed here today.
I can't even imagine even needing to add anything to this. This is the most important talk I've listened to in a long time. So I don't even think there's anything to add. It's so powerful. I need to go think about this.
All right. Well, we'll take a break then.
Okay.
You can go think about it, and we'll come back in the next section.
All right. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Russ.
Okay.
Okay.
So we should stop. I got to render this, and then we can start again.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay.